They don't want you to know this. Yes, that's the truth. They have built entire worlds upon lies, and they have taught you to call those lies truth. They have created illusions so comfortable that you began to protect them, defend them, even worship them. The forbidden truth I am talking about is not hidden in some ancient scripture. It is not buried under the sands of Egypt. It is hidden in you. They don't want you to know this, because once you discover it, their power over you dissolves like smoke in the wind. From your birth, they began the process. Parents, priests, politicians, teachers, all with good intentions perhaps, but blind themselves. They fed you borrowed beliefs, second-hand morality, ideas about what is good, what is evil, who you are supposed to be. They taught you obedience disguised as love, fear disguised as faith. They told you that freedom is dangerous, that individuality is sin, and slowly you forgot your own taste, your own fragrance. You began to live according to a manual written by others. That is the slavery of the soul. The forbidden truth is simple. You are not what they told you you are. You are not the name they gave you, not the religion you inherited, not the mask you wear to be accepted. You are consciousness, vast, infinite, unbounded. And they don't want you to realize this, because the moment you do, their entire structure of control collapses. The world as you know it is built on your forgetfulness. I am not here to give you new beliefs. I am here to take away everything that was imposed upon you. Truth is not something you can learn. It is something you remember when all lies are gone. But to remember, you must dare to unlearn. And unlearning is dangerous because it shakes the foundations of your comfort. It tears away the illusions that gave you a false sense of security. That is why people resist awakening. They fear the freedom that comes with truth. They have convinced you that life is a problem to be solved. They have turned your very existence into a project. Become someone, achieve something, reach somewhere. They have taught you to run, to compare, to compete. And in that mad race, you never ask, where am I running to? You never stop to look at the runner himself. You think the destination will give you peace, but peace can only be found when the runner disappears. The forbidden truth is that there is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, no one to become. You are already that which you seek, but the mind, trained by society, cannot accept such simplicity. It thrives on conflict, it needs problems, it survives only when there is tension. So they gave you gods to worship, ideals to chase, heavens to dream about. And in doing so, they kept you busy, too busy to look inside. Every structure of society depends on your blindness. Religion needs your guilt. Politics needs your fear. The market needs your dissatisfaction. And together, they have created a perfect prison, one that you don't even see because its walls are invisible. The walls are made of your own beliefs. When I say they, do not think of some secret organization plotting against you. They is the collective mind, the unconsciousness of humanity that has been repeating itself for thousands of years. It lives through you, it speaks through you, it acts through you. Every time you say, "This is how things must be," you are serving it. Every time you choose safety over truth, comfort over awareness, you strengthen it. But once you become aware, even for a single moment, a crack appears in the wall. And through that crack, light begins to enter. That light is what I call meditation. Meditation is rebellion. It is not an act of worship, it is an act of remembrance. You sit silently and refuse to participate in their madness. You stop all doing. And in that stillness, you begin to see the truth, that everything they told you was meant to keep you asleep. They don't want you to know this, that silence is power, that the moment you close your eyes and become a watcher of your thoughts, you step out of their control. Because now you are no longer a slave to your conditioning. You begin to see that your mind is just a recording, filled with other people's voices, other people's fears, other people's dreams. And when you see it, the magic happens. The voices lose their authority. You are free. Freedom is not something society can give you. Society exists only to take it away. That is why I call it the forbidden truth, because everything around you has been designed to distract you from it. They will give you endless entertainment, endless noise, endless opinions, anything to keep you from turning inward. Because inside, there is a silence that reveals everything. Inside, you will meet the real you. And once you meet yourself, you can never again be enslaved by any ideology, any belief, any system. The moment you see the truth, your whole life changes. You no longer live as a mechanical part of the collective dream. You become alive, spontaneous, unpredictable. You begin to live according to your own rhythm. And that, my friend, is the most dangerous thing for the world. A man who has remembered himself cannot be manipulated. He cannot be used because he no longer needs anything from the outside. That is why they don't want you to know this, because the awakened man is the end of all authority. He is the end of all systems of control. He becomes a law unto himself, and that is the greatest revolution possible. Once you begin to see the machinery that has been operating within you, something extraordinary happens. You realize that for your entire life, you have been living as a shadow, not truly alive, only functioning, surviving, reacting. You are told what to desire, what to fear, what to respect. You have been programmed to obey invisible rules, and the more obedient you became, the more dead you felt inside. That deadness was not depression, it was the absence of your own being. They don't want you to know that obedience kills the soul. They call it virtue, they reward it, they celebrate it. But obedience is the death of intelligence. When you obey, you stop questioning. When you stop questioning, you stop being conscious. They have raised generations of obedient sheep, afraid of their own freedom. And those who dare to step outside the line are condemned, ridiculed, crucified. Every prophet who brought light into this world was hated. Not because he was wrong, but because he made others uncomfortable. Truth always disturbs because it destroys illusions. And people love their illusions. They decorate them, defend them, even die for them. But to live in truth is to live without comfort. Because comfort is the disguise of slavery. The forbidden truth is not hidden by some external force. It is hidden by your own fear. You are afraid of being alone, afraid of being different, afraid of what others might say. So you conform. You follow the crowd, you pretend, you wear masks. You become a carbon copy of a million others, and yet you wonder why life feels meaningless. How can meaning exist when you are not even yourself? They have given you a ready-made life, ready-made gods, ready-made goals, ready-made identities. Everything is prefabricated, and you simply fit into the mold. And when you try to break free, they call you a rebel, a sinner, a threat. But I tell you, the only sin is to remain unconscious. The only crime is to betray your own awareness. They will tell you to seek truth in scriptures, in temples, in philosophies. They will tell you that enlightenment is something far away, reserved for saints and monks. That too is a lie. Enlightenment is not a mountain you must climb. It is the removal of all that hides the mountain already within you. You are already divine, but divinity has been covered with layers of conditioning, like dust covering a mirror. The mirror is still there, perfect and pure, and you just need to clean it. When I say clean it, I mean look inside ruthlessly, without judgment, without fear. Watch how your mind functions. See how every thought arises from the past, how every reaction is mechanical. Watch your anger, your jealousy, your desire, not to condemn them, but to understand them. In that watching, you become separate from them. The watcher is your real self, the eternal witness that was never born and can never die. That is the truth they don't want you to know, because if you realize you are eternal, death loses its grip on you, and once death loses power, all fear disappears. When fear disappears, authority collapses. Governments, religions, institutions all exist only because you are afraid. They thrive on your fear of death, your fear of rejection, your fear of punishment. Remove fear, and the entire system trembles. Look at the world. Everything is structured to keep you in fear. Fear of losing your job, your partner, your reputation. Fear of the future. Fear of hell. Fear of being nobody. They even make you afraid of being silent, because in silence you might discover yourself. They fill your mind with constant noise, news, gossip, entertainment. A continuous stream of distractions to keep you away from the silence within. But I am telling you, silence is the doorway. Go into it. Do not be afraid. Sit quietly, breathe, and let all the lies surface. Watch them without running. Watch your mind like a movie playing on a screen. Slowly, you begin to see that you are not the movie. You are the watcher. And once you know this, no one can control you anymore. Freedom begins in that single realization. I am the watcher, not the watched. That is why they don't want you to meditate. Not because meditation is useless, but because meditation makes you powerful beyond control. Meditation reveals the kingdom that exists inside you, a kingdom that no priest, no politician, no power can touch. When you close your eyes and enter your inner world, you are stepping out of their game. You are refusing to participate in their madness. And remember, madness is the norm in this world. Sanity looks insane to the insane. So when you begin to wake up, they will call you crazy, dangerous, even evil. But do not be afraid. They have called every awakened one crazy because his very presence is a threat to their sleep. They don't want you to know that truth does not come through effort, through struggle, through becoming. It comes through relaxation, through surrender, through being. You have been taught that everything must be achieved, conquered, earned. That is another lie. The greatest truths cannot be achieved. They can only be received. And to receive, you must become empty. Emptiness is not nothingness. It is fullness without content. It is the sky in which all clouds come and go. You are that sky. Your thoughts, your emotions, your memories, they are just passing clouds. Do not get attached to them. Watch them come. Watch them go. Stay in the witnessing, and you will discover a stillness that is beyond time. That stillness is your essence, and once you taste it, even for a moment, you will never again be deceived by their lies, because the taste of truth is eternal. It does not fade. It cannot be corrupted. It becomes your compass, your anchor, your freedom. The moment you taste even a drop of truth, everything you once called life begins to crumble. It is like waking up from a dream you thought was real. You look around and see people still dreaming, still chasing illusions, still fighting for shadows. You feel compassion because you were once one of them. You understand their pain, their blindness, their endless running, but you also feel a deep sadness, because you now see that they don't really want to wake up. They say they want truth, but they want it only if it doesn't disturb their sleep. They want enlightenment, but only if it doesn't burn their illusions. They want freedom, but only if it comes without risk. But truth is fire. It burns everything that is false. Freedom is death, the death of the ego, the death of your imaginary self. And they don't want you to die in that way, because once the false dies, you are no longer useful to their systems. You become unpredictable, untamable. I tell you, the real revolution is not political, not social, not economic. The real revolution is individual. It begins when one man dares to open his eyes and see. The world changes one consciousness at a time, but society does not understand this. Society wants collective sleep, collective identity, collective insanity. It wants you to belong, and belonging means surrendering your uniqueness. It wants you to be a part of the herd, because a man who walks alone, who listens to his own voice, who follows his own heart. Such a man cannot be controlled. That is why they have poisoned your mind with fear of solitude. They have told you that being alone is loneliness. It is not. Loneliness is the absence of the other. Aloneness is the presence of yourself. They don't want you to discover that you are enough, because if you discover that, you will stop buying their religions, their products, their dreams. You will stop being a consumer and become a creator. The forbidden truth is that you are already whole. You were born perfect, but they made you believe you are incomplete. So you keep searching, chasing, accumulating, improving. You think happiness will come from somewhere outside, from a lover, a career, a belief, but every time you reach what you wanted, the joy fades, the hunger returns. That is how they keep you trapped, promising fulfillment that never arrives. You are like a man standing in the ocean, dying of thirst, because he does not realize that the water he seeks is already around him. You are seeking God, not knowing that you are the expression of the divine itself. You are searching for love, not knowing that love is your very nature. The seeker and the sought are one, but the seeker must disappear for the truth to be revealed. They don't want you to know that, because if you stop seeking, you stop consuming. If you stop striving, you become silent, and silence is rebellion. A silent man cannot be manipulated. A silent man cannot be led into wars, into fanaticism, into greed. That is why all around you there is so much noise. Not by accident, but by design. The modern world is built to distract you from yourself. Have you noticed how afraid you are of silence? Sit alone in a room for 5 minutes with no phone, no music, no book, and you begin to feel restless, anxious, uneasy. Why? Because for the first time, you begin to encounter your own being, and you realize how empty your inner world has become. You have filled it with borrowed thoughts, borrowed dreams, borrowed desires, but none of it is truly yours. That realization terrifies you, so you run back to noise, to distraction, to others. But remember, the beginning of awakening is the courage to stay with that discomfort. When you stop escaping, you begin to see, and what you see is not always beautiful. You see your masks, your lies, your fears. You see how much of your life has been wasted in imitation. You see that the person you thought you were is just a collection of habits, and then, slowly, that false self begins to fall apart. Yes, it hurts. Growth always hurts. But that pain is sacred. It is the pain of rebirth. When the caterpillar dissolves inside the cocoon, it feels like death. But that death is the doorway to transformation. The ego must die for the soul to fly. They don't want you to know this, because every awakened being is a threat to the unconscious world. That is why they have turned even spirituality into another marketplace. They sell enlightenment in fancy packages, books, seminars, retreats, promises. They have turned the sacred into business. But truth cannot be bought or sold. It can only be lived. It requires courage, not money. It requires honesty, not belief. It requires silence, not rituals. They want you to worship. I want you to awaken. They want you to follow. I want you to see. They want you to believe. I want you to know. There is a vast difference between belief and knowing. Belief is borrowed. Knowing is born out of your own experience. Belief keeps you asleep. Knowing wakes you up. Belief depends on others. Knowing depends on awareness. When you begin to live from your own knowing, a strange thing happens. You stop being afraid of death, of failure, of loss. You realize that nothing real can ever be lost. Only the false dies. The true is eternal. And in that understanding, life becomes play, not struggle. Existence becomes a dance, not a war. You begin to move with the rhythm of the whole, not against it. They don't want you to dance, they want you to march. They want order, discipline, obedience. But life is not a military parade. It is a celebration. It is chaos and beauty and music all at once. To live in tune with life, you must drop all control. You must trust. And trust is the highest form of intelligence. Trust yourself. Trust existence. Trust the unknown. That is the essence of awakening. When you trust, you no longer need systems to protect you, rules to guide you, authorities to define you. You become your own light. That is the forbidden truth they have always tried to bury, that you are already the light you seek. Once you begin to see that you are the light itself, something inside you shifts forever. You cannot go back to blindness. You may try to pretend, you may try to fit into the old patterns again, but they no longer fit. The clothes of ignorance become too tight for your expanding being. You begin to feel the falseness in conversations, in ambitions, in the games people play. You see the masks everywhere, in others, in yourself. And slowly, your interest in the masquerade fades away. They don't want you to reach this point, because once you see through the mask, their entire drama loses power. The ego is the foundation of the whole collective illusion. Every structure, religion, politics, economy, depends on it. Ego is the engine of competition, the fuel of greed, the root of violence. Without the ego, who would want to dominate? Who would want to possess? Who would need to prove they are superior? That is why, from the very beginning, society trains you to build an identity. Be someone, they say. Make a name, achieve something, leave a legacy. And you begin the great chase. You construct an image, polish it, defend it. You call it me. But this me is just an idea, fragile, false, constantly needing validation. That's why you suffer, because you are protecting something that doesn't exist. The forbidden truth is that the ego is your prison, not your protection. It is the mask that suffocates your real face, and the tragedy is that you have become identified with it. You have forgotten that you are the witness, not the mask. You are the space in which the mask appears and disappears. They don't want you to know that the death of the ego is not death at all. It is liberation. The ego fears its end, so it invents hell to scare you, heaven to bribe you. But there is no hell, no heaven, only this moment. This presence, right now, is eternity. When you are silent, you can feel it, a vastness beyond thought, a peace beyond understanding. But silence is dangerous to them, because silence makes you sovereign. In silence, you belong to no one. You don't need approval. You don't need recognition. You are enough. That is the ultimate threat to all systems of control. A human being who needs nothing from the outside world. They call it detachment. I call it freedom. Detachment sounds cold, as if you are withdrawing from life. But true freedom is not withdrawal. It is participation without bondage. You still love, but your love is not possession. You still act, but your actions are not motivated by fear or ambition. You live fully, but you are not enslaved by what happens. That is what it means to live consciously, to be in the world, but not of it. They don't want you to live like that, because an awakened being cannot be exploited. You cannot sell him fake dreams. You cannot manipulate him with guilt. You cannot frighten him with death. He lives with a quiet joy that comes from within. He has discovered the kingdom of God, not somewhere in the clouds, but in the silence of his own heart. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," they crucified him. When Buddha sat under a tree and refused to follow the rituals of his time, they rejected him. When I tell you to look within, they call it dangerous. Why? Because the moment you find your own truth, you become unpredictable, uncontrollable, and utterly free. They will tell you to worship the awakened ones, but never to be like them. They build temples to those who have seen, but they do not want you to open your own eyes. They decorate the statues of dead masters, but they ignore the living truth, because a living truth burns. A statue is safe. It cannot speak, it cannot disturb, it cannot awaken you. I'm not interested in being worshipped. I want you to be awake. I want you to see that you are not a beggar in this universe. You are the very source of it. You are not a part of existence. You are existence itself, expressing through this form. Once you see that, how can fear remain? How can you ever feel inferior or superior? Comparison disappears because the ocean cannot compare its waves. They don't want you to know that comparison is poison. It keeps you miserable. You are constantly looking around. Who is more beautiful, more successful, more enlightened? You live in the illusion of more, and that illusion keeps you running. But life is not about being more. Life is about being. There is no competition in existence. Trees are not jealous of other trees. Stars do not compare their brightness. Only man, trapped in the illusion of the ego, suffers from comparison. And yet, when you drop comparison, an extraordinary serenity enters your heart. You begin to see beauty everywhere, even in imperfection. You begin to see that everything is exactly as it should be. You stop fighting with existence, and in that surrender, your energy is transformed. It becomes creativity. It becomes love. It becomes compassion. That's the final secret they don't want you to know. That love is your natural state. Not the love that depends on someone else, not the love that demands or expects, but the love that simply is. When you are silent, when you are whole, love flows effortlessly. It is not something you do. It is something you become. It radiates from you like light from a flame. And that love is revolutionary, because a man who loves cannot be manipulated. Love destroys fear, and without fear, there is no power over you. Love makes you fearless, spontaneous, alive. It makes you a danger to every system built on fear. That is why they don't teach you how to love. They teach you how to obey. They teach you morality, not love, discipline, not awareness, belief, not understanding. But love is not taught. It is rediscovered when all fear has vanished. When you stop pretending, stop striving, stop hiding. Love arises naturally, like fragrance from a flower. It was always there, only the thorns of fear were hiding it. Remove the fear, and love blossoms. That love is the forbidden truth, and once you taste it, you can never again be a slave. Now, if you have truly listened, not with your ears, but with your being, something inside you has already begun to shift. You may not be able to name it, but you can feel it, a strange stillness, a subtle awareness, the beginning of remembrance. That is how truth works. It doesn't arrive with noise or drama. It appears silently, like dawn breaking after a long night. They don't want you to know this, because once you start remembering who you are, you become a danger to all that is false. You become untouchable. You may still live in the same world, but the world can no longer live in you. You see the madness, but you are no longer part of it. You play the game, but you know it is a game. You act, but from awareness, not from conditioning. And that is freedom, to be in the world, yet not enslaved by it. This is the forbidden truth. You were never lost. You only believed you were. You were never separate from existence. You only dreamed that you were an outsider. You were never small, weak, or unworthy. These were lies whispered into your ear since childhood, repeated so many times that you began to believe them. But now, as you awaken, those voices lose their grip. They fade into the distance like echoes of an old dream. You are not the dust that covers the mirror. You are the mirror itself. You are not the clouds that pass. You are the sky. You are not the waves. You are the ocean. And yet look at how long you have identified with the waves, how afraid you have been of dissolving. You thought that if the wave disappeared, you would die. But when the wave disappears, it returns to the ocean, its true self. Death is not the end. It is only a return. They don't want you to know this, because once death becomes an illusion, fear dies with it. And when fear dies, all authority collapses. A man who is not afraid of death cannot be enslaved. He bows to no one, not even to God, because he knows that the divine is not outside, it is within. When you discover this, all worship becomes meaningless. The prayer that remains is silence. The silence I speak of is not emptiness. It is overflowing fullness. It is the silence of a mountain, the silence of a flower blooming, the silence of stars moving through infinite space. That silence is your true nature. You were born out of it, and to it you will return. But until you live it consciously, you will remain divided, chasing the shadows of happiness, begging for crumbs of peace, always looking outward. And the more you seek outside, the more you lose yourself. This is the great irony. What you are searching for has never left you. The door was never locked. You simply forgot how to open your eyes. The moment you see this, a laughter arises. Not a laughter of ridicule, but of liberation. You laugh because you realize how simple it always was. You laugh because you were seeking something that could never be lost. You laugh because the whole drama of suffering was nothing but a dream, and in that laughter you are reborn. They don't want you to laugh that laughter, because a man who laughs from awareness is beyond control. He cannot be intimidated, cannot be deceived, cannot be bought. He moves through life like a breeze, unbound, untouched, unafraid. Such a man is free even while in chains. That is what I call enlightenment. Not the attainment of something new, but the realization that there was never anything to attain. Do not make enlightenment another goal. Do not turn awakening into another ambition. That is the subtle trap of the mind. It can turn even liberation into a desire. Simply watch the mind, let it play its games, but remain the watcher. Let thoughts come and go, let emotions rise and fall. Just don't identify. Slowly the storm will pass, and you will find yourself sitting in the center of stillness. That stillness is the forbidden truth. That stillness is your home. And once you know your home, you can walk through this world with grace. You can love without fear. You can live without control. You can die without resistance. You no longer need to seek meaning because life itself becomes meaning. Every breath becomes sacred. Every moment becomes divine. They don't want you to live like that, but existence does. Existence has been calling you back home in 1,000 ways, through your suffering, your longing, your silence. Every pain, every joy, every encounter was a whisper from the beyond, saying, "Remember." Now it is up to you. You can go back to sleep. It is easy, comfortable, safe. Or you can take the risk of being awake. It will cost you everything you are not, but it will give you everything you truly are. Wake up. Not tomorrow, not someday, now, because now is the only moment that exists. And once you awaken, even for a single instant, eternity opens before you. The forbidden truth is not something I can give you. I can only point the way. You must walk it yourself. No one can walk it for you. But if you have felt even a spark of understanding, protect it, nourish it, meditate on it. Let it grow into a fire that consumes every falsehood within you. And when that fire has burned everything unreal, what remains is truth, silent, vast, infinite, you. They don't want you to know this, but now you do. If these words have touched something real in you, don't let it slip back into sleep. Sit with it, breathe with it, let it echo in the stillness of your heart. And when you are ready, share that light. Not as a teacher, not as a preacher, but simply as a presence. The world does not need more preachers. It needs more beings who have remembered. So if this truth resonates in your being, speak it in your silence. Live it through your eyes. Let every step, every breath, every heartbeat be a reminder of what you are. And if what you have heard today has awakened even a small spark within you, let it grow. Comment, share, speak, connect, not to follow, but to awaken together, because each awakening adds light to the whole. Now go, not to seek, but to be, not to find truth, but to live it, not to believe, but to know. The forbidden truth was never forbidden at all. It was simply forgotten. Now remember,